Aloha, everyone. My name is Kim Ann Curtin. My firm is called The Wall Street Coach, and I'm very excited today to be hosting an interview and a conversation with a spiritual teacher of mine that I have known for now almost 8 years, Joseph Aldo. Hi, Joseph.
Hey, Kim. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. I met Joseph in New York City at a 5 rhythms class. And we spoke, in New York City, in this particular dance studio. Outside is an area where you kind of change it to some clothing. It's like a true dance studio. You don't have a lot of space. You're kind of bumping into each other. And if I recall correctly, you had lost your pants somewhere.
Somehow I did. You were like so engaged talking with me. I have no idea what happened to my dance clothes.
We had such deep conversations so quickly and connected, just as though we had known each other our whole lives. And I felt you felt so familiar to me. That's the best I can describe it. And we wound up, you let go of whatever jeans or whatever you had lost. And we wound up walking down, was that Broadway? Where you were parked on that street outside the dance studio. And I remember walking with you to your car. And there were a couple of things that I can't even specifically remember what you said, but it kind of went through me into my heart. And I was like, who is this guy? I want to get to know him more. And then we found out we both lived in Brooklyn. I was in Greenpoint. You're in, what part are you in? Carroll Gardens?
Yep, Carroll Gardens.
Yeah. Yep. And you're also now located in
Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, absolutely. So, I think I just wanted to say to the audience, Joseph is a Renaissance man. He is a man who has an incredible array of skills and parts to himself that have unfolded for me in our friendship and in your mentorship and spiritual teachings to me personally. So I'm so grateful to you. You've changed my life, Joseph, in innumerable ways. So it's an honor to be here today and engage in this conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I think I first want to speak about some of the classes Joseph has held that I've attended that I'd love, to learn more about. Joseph, you can speak on them more, but the classes that I have taken of Joseph so far, because I'm sure there's more to come down the road, have been around consciousness, have been around holistic healing, have been around flower essences. And all of 3 of them have had a profound and deep, long-lasting effect on me. I think also personal one-on-one sessions that I've had with Joseph. And I think the one session, although so many profound things came forward with all the sessions, one of those sessions gave me one of the deepest and widest connection to an altered state that lasted for about 2 weeks that I've ever had. I've been very fortunate to have a handful of very profound spiritual experiences. But this one that I left your apartment in Brooklyn. You had given me, I think, a small dose of one of the remedies, but I'm not even a combination of the remedy itself and a combination of the session that we had. I found myself in an altered state of unconditional love, connection to the divine, and connection to every human being around me for almost 2 weeks. And I can't even describe it. It felt like when I hear people describe their experiences with hallucinogenics, their experiences with ayahuasca, the different profound journeys that I've spoken to other colleagues, friends, or spiritual people about, that's the description of those sounds like a lot of what I went through myself. Except I was not on a hallucinogenic. I was just in this altered state for these 2 weeks. And I remember calling you, walking on the streets of Manhattan, absolutely not only loving unconditionally everybody around me, but feeling their love back. And it was so profound and perfect and beautiful that I recall about 10 days into this, I called you and I was like, I don't want this to ever end. And I could already sense that this state was starting to dissipate. And I was like, Joseph, I don't want it to go. I don't want it to go. What am I going to do? And I don't know if you remember what you said to me.
No, I don't.
You just said to me, the more you grasp, Kim, the more quickly it will dissipate. But don't worry, because because of course it's going to dissipate. You know, you're in this world. How long could it last for? But you have to remember that it's always inside of you, and it'll always be inside of you and accessible. You know, what did you say? Something about, you know, it's always available to you, but you aren't always available to it. And in that moment, I knew I can get emotional now just thinking about how delicious it was, how profound it was. It was the place, it's the only place that mattered. And I just remembered in that moment, hearing your voice, hearing that wisdom and thinking, okay, how do I trust that that is true?
Right. And
you
how
were
do
right.
you allow for that experience to continue exponentially in life without forcing it, without using your willpower to generate it, but to allow grace to descend and gift you with that experience of the infinite in this world that is finite. So whenever anyone has such an experience like that, I say, there's your bar. There's the place that you are striving towards. And you get the gift of that experience to know what your goal is and where you are moving towards.
Mm.
And each time we surrender our limited egos, issues, the fears, the insecurities, the angers, the upsets, all that stuff, as we let go of all those experiences, we have greater and greater access to that state of consciousness, that bliss, that state of oneness that you are experiencing at our disposal. And you can be in this world of duality and chaos, so no matter what's happening outside, the inner state doesn't change. So you were blessed to have that experience for 2 weeks. I mean, people have it like for an evening sometimes on hallucinogenics, but you got it for 2 weeks to show you like, this is you. This is the real you. And now, so that's the mountaintop, so to speak. And then we descend back down to the valley, and we have to take it step by step up to the mountaintop. And we have to be very patient because we already know what the goal is, but it's not going to happen in our time. It's going to happen in divine timing.
Yeah. I think the most profound experience in that state was the fearlessness. There was no fear, there was only love. And that was, it's an unforgettable experience, because to know that there is a place where it's just love, because it wasn't just my love for everyone around me, strangers and whatnot. I mean, in the streets of Manhattan, for God's sakes, I mean, I'm a true New Yorker. That's a weird feeling. But the love from everybody else, it was like we were one, and there was no distinction or delineation. And that was it's a profound
state, and it's a profound truth, because that is the truth with a capital T, that there is no separation, that we are all one. But here we are in these separate bodies having these distinct experiences from each other. So how do you navigate a world of polarity and duality and maintain this unity consciousness?
Yeah.
That is the most challenging question, because we're always looking for the opposite, the extreme, the you versus me, the us versus them. And it is continually, programmed to us that we are different. That we are distinct rather than we are all interconnected. And so
it's like within ourselves, never mind external. Like we have these parts of ourselves that we want to deny. We have that schism internally. It's so
correct.
easy.
And that's why, on this path, that I've taken, I've had to face all of these shadow aspects and wounds and all of my desires to, project onto the world, like, you did this to me, right? I am a victim of what happened to me in my childhood, what happened to me in school, whatever it is. And instead, I have to integrate all those experiences, all those shadow aspects, and essentially forgive everything,
Mm. Yeah.
forgive the past, forgive who I think did what to me, and truly remain in this present moment, which is in a state of unconditional love and acceptance of all and everything. And that's really a great challenge, to be like, yeah, but this person did this to me, and because of that, my whole life, went from that moment in time, and that's why I am who I am. And it's like, well, actually, no, that moment in time is complete, and this is another moment in time, and you get to be free of that if you're willing, ready, and able to surrender all of your stories
Mm.
around that event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so essentially, it requires us to, what I call, take full responsibility for being the creators of our own lives.
Mhm.
I created everything 100%. And it's a very foreign concept to think I am the creator of my life. How could I have created that person doing that to me
Mm.
when I was a child, for example? And yes, in the grand scheme of things, of looking at it from the place of duality and me versus someone else, no, I am a victim of that experiences, versus somehow in all of my existence, this relationship with this person is something much bigger than just that event. And
Mm.
that event speaks to something much greater than just that event. And
Mm.
that event is a catalyst to heal something deep and profound inside of myself.
Mm.
So when one is able to use life experiences, especially difficult and challenging life experiences, to heal and to evolve, then we're able to integrate the shadow of that experience without projecting it into, like, someone did something to me. It's like, oh, I created this scene in my movie called Joseph in this
Mm.
lifetime. And why I created it can be a great mystery to me. But in order to regain the power, my soul, I need to somehow go back to that moment in time and clear up that situation, clean it up, forgive the person, forgive myself, all time and space, for whatever may have happened, and then cut the cords. Now take all that power back into this being.
So this is a lot of the heart of what I know you teach. And even though we started to go down the road of some of the experiences, I just want to identify that this is really going to be a podcast series for you to get to know Joseph. And we'll be calling this the Mastering the Game of Life, which is something he speaks about, classes he teaches. And today you're really just going to get to know Joseph, understand his perspective, understand his teachings a little bit deeper. And one of the things I'd love for you to just explain for the people watching us, Joseph, is you describe yourself, your website speaks to you being an intuitive holistic healer, a spiritual mentor, and you speak about having a PhD, of course, in natural health. Why don't you just share with us a little bit about how you began this journey, what that really means to be an intuitive holistic healer and even spiritual mentor?
Mm,
Can you just tell us about how it began for you?
sure. So I've always been intuitive, even as a child. I was very perceptive, very aware of things around me. If people were lying, I could always tell, like, something's not right about what they're saying. I couldn't explain how I knew. It was like a felt body experience, like something is dissonant in what this person is communicating. So I ended up being very quiet as a kid and just observing a lot, just watching people, almost like studying them. Like, I would even
Mm.
ask myself, what are you doing? Like, I was almost
Mm.
x-raying people. I would go out to clubs in Manhattan and I would sit on the loudspeaker, at midnight, and I'd start searing through people with my vision. And I'm like, what are you doing? What is that you're doing? And ultimately, I
Mm.
became an intuitive with a physician. And I realized I was scanning people, their system, years later when I was working with Dr. Ballantyne as an intuitive. And it, who knows where these abilities come from and how they are cultivated, but no doubt I came into this world with certain spiritual gifts, or what's called siddhis. And, the goal is to be able to use these gifts to serve humanity. So intuition is definitely one of my main tools that I use when working with people. And, it's a word that encompasses many things. So for me, the intuition encompasses just an inner knowing of things about people. Also the clairvoyance, the capacity to see, capacity to hear guidance from my guides, um, from people's guides, from people's higher selves. When I work with clients, it's really tapping into their source of information, because I don't know anything about anyone, and all this information just floods my consciousness. So intuition is my main tool when working with people. And, because I had so many issues, when I woke up at 20 years old, I had a voice speaking to me when I was in college. And the voice would say every morning, "What are you eating?" And I wake up with this voice in my head going, "What are you eating?" And I'm like, pizza, hamburgers, like the normal high school, college fare. And after a month of it, I'm like, all right, already, well, what's the point of this? And so I started to look at like boxes of the ingredients in the boxes of stores when I would go into the food store. And I'd be like, what is this stuff? These are like this, like I can't even pronounce the names on these boxes. And I realized like these are a lot of chemicals, and I'm eating basically chemicalized food substances, but not really food. So I prayed for a teacher. I started like communicating with this voice and asking questions and asking for support. And then things started to happen. Like teachers would show up, information would show up just at the right moment in time. And I thought, oh, there's something happening here that I've got to pay close attention to. So there's a dialogue actually happening with this invisible world. So I'm gonna cultivate this capacity to speak into the emptiness and then listen for a response.
Mm.
So over time in my early 20s, I just started to like wait for the guidance to come. And I could always tell when I was being guided, because somebody would say something and I'm like a feeling would come over me and I'm like, that's guidance. I have to follow that lead. And if I don't, I'm going to veer off of my path.
Was there a
And so
distinction to that voice that felt different than your own internal voice?
absolutely, it was like an authority, like
Mm.
like someone, I was working in a restaurant in my early 20s and someone just walked up to me and said, you should go study shiatsu. And I'm like, I should go study shiatsu? They're like, you should study shiatsu. I never even heard of it. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay. And you were particularly like, yes, go to this school. And I did. Went to this school, did a 1.5 year course of shiatsu, became a shiatsu therapist. And then there I met someone who took me to Italy. And then from Italy, I met someone who took me to, like, it was like this step-by-step process
Wow.
that I was being guided on this path that was as if it was already planned out for me.
Wow. It's
Which is kind of
beautiful.
tripped out, because one thinks, I'm making all the decisions in my life. But I'd have to say that's actually not the case. After 30 plus years of doing this work and readings with people, a lot of our life is destined. And
Mm.
all we have to do is listen for the guidance to know what the map is of our soul's destiny.
Mm.
Like, listen to what's arising in each moment, and to make that distinction between our own egoic voice, which operates from a place of fear and limitation, to the voice of guidance, which is all about expansive in consciousness and infinitude and love and acceptance of all that is. So it's a very different vibration, the one between our ego and the one between our higher self, that is, guiding us on this path so that we may fulfill our soul's purpose. There is a purpose to being here.
Mm.
And I knew that early on. And that's why when this voice started speaking to me, I held on for dear life. I'm like, if it was like a wild horse, I was not going to let go of that mane because I knew it was going to take me to my destination come hell or high water. I was not going to fall off.
So
So
what would you say to the people who perhaps for them this is the first time? We'll probably have a collection of people that watch this. There will be people who have had themselves a spiritual journey or a sense of knowing since their childhood. And then there could be people who are watching this that have never really, maybe this is the first spiritual kind of topic they're open to or they're paying attention to. What helps somebody understand? Because I think some people might be a bit afraid of that inner voice. In my work as a coach, there's times when that inner voice is an inner saboteur or an inner gremlin to someone. So what would you say you could point to for somebody who's new to this, how to understand the difference?
well, we're going to do it. We're going to do a podcast on intuition and how to know the distinction between the true inner voice and the one that sabotages us, or the one that is based in fear or protection or leaving us in a place of comfortability. So yes, there's definitely a distinction. But for me, I always had a felt sense, a bodily sensation of the information I am being given now is truth and accuracy. It's true and it's accurate in the greater scheme of things. And so the thing is, though, each time I took a step, if it flowed, I knew I was going in the right direction. If it didn't flow, it wasn't the right direction. So there's various barometers that I have cultivated to know that what I'm hearing, feeling, seeing, experiencing is accurate versus my own mind making stuff up. Very, very clearly. And I'm writing a book called The Voice Within, of how I would do things that this out of nowhere, I heard it in my head to do something, and it made no sense to my ego, to my mind, my limited mind, but I knew I had to take the step. And sure enough, it just paid off in spades. And I'm like, damn, what if I didn't follow that voice? And then like it's like a domino effect of other experiences that are happening because of following this voice. So
Yes.
truly one has to cultivate this capacity within oneself by trusting the absurdity sometimes of what one is guided to do, and then taking that risk, and then the risk paying off. The more one does that, the stronger that muscle of intuition becomes, and then more and more you just know, I got to do this, I got to do that. There's no doubt, no question in one's mind. So at this point in time, when I'm doing sessions with clients, there's no doubt that what I'm saying is completely accurate. Even when they say, no, that doesn't resonate with me, I'm like, give it a minute, it will. Because it's almost like I know someone better than they know themselves sometimes, because
Yes.
we're so in our quagmire of delusion that when the truth comes to us, we can't even accept it. Look at what's happening in the world today. Like there's so much that we're told is true, and you can find proof for the exact opposite as well. So what is the truth in the grand scheme of things? And that truth will come from inside of us. It never comes from outside of us.
The word you use that I love is cultivate. I really feel the heart of all the courses I've experienced with you. They all are in service to that cultivation for you to begin to get connected to your own truth and to that universal truth. So tell us a little bit about your books. You have this new one coming out, but you also have the 2 books that are sitting up on that shelf. Tell us a little bit more about what the books are and which book kind of is the best one perhaps for someone to start with if this is their first time wanting to dive into this topic.
Well, to share more about how I got into becoming an intuitive holistic healer and a spiritual mentor, to become a healer, one has to go through various gates of initiation. And when I embarked on this journey of listening to my inner voice and following the guidance, I began to go through a series of significant challenges and dark night of the soul experiences, which, many spiritual teachers talk about. but one cannot understand what it actually is until one goes through it. And essentially, it is a process of dying to your limited self, to your illusionary self. And you essentially have to face all of your shadows and all of your fears and ingest them, dissolve them, transmute them. And it's a very intense process. No one can do it for you. And I went through that for around 25 years, on and off. This very intense dark night of the soul, where my body just like fell apart. I had a lot of health issues, chronic fatigue, digestive issues. Like it just was like ongoing for many, many years, plus all these psychological issues, a lot of emotional issues. So I just went through this process over and over again, sometimes laying in bed for months at a time. And so at a certain point, I was like, I don't know what to do with this information. So I started to write, and I started to write poetry. I've never studied poetry. I've never consciously sought out to be a writer or anything, but it turned out that that was the way I was able to transform a lot of my states of consciousness when I was deeply depressed or deeply exhausted and fatigued. And who am I? What am I? What is this all about? And what did I do to deserve this?
Mm.
And so I wrote these poems, and it was almost like they were writing me because I was being communicated to. I would write down like my experience, and all of a sudden something would take over and complete it for me and share with me why I was going through it.
Mm.
So the In an Ecstatic State is the poetry book that came out of those many years of the dark night of the soul, and using somehow sometimes humor in order to get myself out of the pain and the suffering, the profound pain and suffering, which really worked.
Yeah,
So,
I wanted to speak to your sense of humor. And at the beginning, in fact, I went to say that one of the things that I love most about you is for most spiritual teachers I've experienced along the road, I've never met one who has a better sense of humor than you. You remember rule number 6, you never take yourself too seriously. You're always down to earth. You're so shoot straight from the hip. And that makes, I think, some of the mind-blowing things that you say palatable, Joseph, because you're able to laugh at yourself, with yourself, and along with the rest of us who journey on the journey with you.
right. Yeah, I mean, if you can't laugh at the absurdity of existence and the things that's presented to you, you're in trouble. So I learned early on, like, I got to find a good sense of humor, because if not, my mind is going to be like really challenged with the, like one of my favorite lines is, "You can't make this shit up." Like,
I know.
like I just go through this intense transformation, and there's the next one, and I'm like, really? Can I get like a coffee break or something? Like, can you just like throw me a bone that I can chew on for a day or two before you send me into the next tailspin of a dark night? And my guides just laugh and smile and say, "You can handle this. Don't worry, Joe. You're good to go. It'll make sense later on in life." And sure enough, it does make sense later on. So now that's why people can come to me, present to me these very intense issues, and I can be like, "Yeah, I got it. I'm with you. I've been through it, and you're going to get through it, and I'm going to help you get through it as well."
Yeah.
So I make light of a lot of the intense experiences people have, and it helps them to go through it in a way that is much more graceful rather than so serious and so intense, because everything is so serious in this world, and everything is so important and so significant. It's like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe you were giving too much significance to things that it's not so important.
Yeah.
So,
The thought that comes to me is your journey of this challenge, incredible heat and challenge over and over and over again. Everything I understand about, the journey of a shaman is that they will all have to go through that. There will always be this kind of initiations over and over and over again. of being able to transcend layers upon layers of challenges.
Yeah, and to dissolve the illusion of this world, you have to dissolve it within yourself. You have to die over and over and over again to your limited identity, to your limited story, to anything that limits you. We are here to die. At least I'm here to die in this lifetime, over and over again. And, you know, it is not a path for the lighthearted, I must tell you that, because you really must commit to yourself, to source, you know, whatever you want to call that entity, that energy that we all erupt from and arise from. You know, it is a daily commitment to your health, your body, your practice, your spiritual practice, to being authentically yourself, to being, to communicating from a place of truth, to having compassion and love and surrender. And, you know, there's so many aspects to consider on a spiritual journey. And it's a 24/7 job. It really is a 24/7 job where we are being challenged to be true to ourselves no matter what, and to ingest all of our fears, to face and ingest all of our fears, no matter how intense they are. And in this way, when you ingest your fears, that is an alchemical term, to ingest, but it's basically to transform your fears. When you transform your fears, you have the power that all those fears had over you. You have the power of whatever externally that you gave your power over to, a person, an event, an experience. You get all that power back to yourself, and then you become the authority, the author of your life, and the master in this game of life, whereby you speak into existence and existence listens and follows you and what you say. And to get to that place of mastery of the world, you have to master yourself. You have to master your mind. You have to master your body. You have to master your addictions, your distractions. All of these things must be faced. And that's essentially what I went through for 23 years. Like any addictions I had, my addiction to sugar, one of the hardest things to give up. It took me many years to not be controlled by some food substance, some sugar, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You take the power back from that, and then you have that power to command this life in this world, because this world essentially is simply a projection from within ourselves. It is a movie screen of which we are projecting our inner state of consciousness into the external world. That's why when you understand that the world is an illusion, but it's my illusion, I've created it, because I am projecting all of my stuff into this world, and the world is reflecting it back to me. So there is nothing that comes my way that is not a part of me, that is not part of my creation. I am the creator of this reality. It's a very hard concept to understand, because then people feel like, you know, like to blame themselves for creating whatever they create. It's not about blaming, it's about being aware that I am generating this existence 100%, and I need to make a shift in my consciousness if there's anything I am not liking or wanting to experience. I have got to do inner work to change this pattern that is presenting itself to me. Because once you do that over and over and over again, once you absorb and clear these patterns and return to a place of neutrality, what I call the witness consciousness, when you step into witness consciousness, then this reality in front of us becomes our territory. And I can change anything simply by observing it. Simply observing it. It returns to balance. It returns to stability. It returns to health. So when I'm sitting here with a client, for example, I'm holding that neutrality, that witness consciousness, and the emptiness. And in that emptiness, healing happens. I'm not trying to heal. I'm not trying to change the world in front of me. I am simply being myself, that I have cultivated by doing the inner work, by facing shadow after shadow, fear after fear, pulling back all of my cords of energy back into my body. And in this presence, in this moment, in the emptiness, in the nothingness, I am now generating a reality in front of me that is returning to balance, to its natural state of wholeness, to the truth with a capital T. But it's not from my will that I'm trying to change it. It is simply from being present. And in the present, a presence radiates from me to the world, from me to the client, to you, to anyone. And somehow that presence is healing.
Mhm. What I'm hearing is there is no resistance. There is no contraction. And that in and of itself opens up a whole nother paradigm for you to be able to be in, and thus allow that client to step into of yours.
Yes, to become a master in this world, you have to master all of your lessons and all the teachings that you came in to learn. Some of us came in with a lot, like me, my soul is like, we're going to do a ton of work. So batten down the hatches, strap yourself in, and hold on, because you're going to go through some serious roller coaster rides on so many levels, but watch what happens afterwards. So some of us came through with a lot of work to do. Others of us came in with very little to do. So we can't expect, like, I can't expect everyone to do the level of work that I came here to do. But I can know, like, what level you came to do versus this person versus that person, and then guide them on that path. But there is work that we each came here to do, and there is a level of mastery we each came here to experience and achieve. But one has to be attuned to one's guidance and the inner roadmap to know what is my piece of the puzzle, because it's so easy to get caught up with, my life is about my 9-to-5 job and taking care of my kids and paying the bills. But when all is said and done and you leave this plane of existence, what are you bringing with you? You're not bringing your kids, you're not bringing your job, you're not bringing all of your accomplishments on the material level. So what is the point of life? And that contemplation is a very important contemplation to have, because this lifetime, like any lifetime, is significant, right? But this lifetime is very significant because we're moving from Pisces to Aquarius. And there is a shift in consciousness happening on this planet within humanity that will help us to evolve at a speed that has never been possible before. So we really want to ride the waves of transformation happening on this planet, not take things so personally, not get caught up in the Maya or the illusion of what's happening out there, but to really know, what is my piece of work to do in all of what's happening? And our piece of work to do is whatever we react to, that's our work. Every reaction is a loss of power, a loss of self. So the goal is to have that witness consciousness, so that whenever we go into reactive mode, which is a sympathetic state, a fight or flight state, which is never present, right? Unless something is coming after you and you have to run, or if like a New York City cab is like about to hit you, that's great, that's present. But a reaction oftentimes is not present, it's past. And that fight or flight is not useful, except it's triggering something. So when we have the awareness that I am in a reactive state and I'm not present now, I need to now notice what's going on inside of me. What triggered this? Who am I blaming? Because it's not about that person. They're just a catalyst, not the cause. And so when you understand, number one, that there's a greater purpose to being in this world than just, the material aspect of it, there is a much higher level of consciousness operating within us. And we must awaken to that level of consciousness so that we may be guided and directed, and that we may utilize the energy in this world and what is happening on this planet in human consciousness to ride the waves and truly master being in this world, truly being able to be a catalyst for this transformation rather than feeding the illusion of what's happening. right?
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
Let's talk more about the contemplations, your book, The Seven Contemplations. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that so that those watching can understand and appreciate how that book may be able to help them on their journey?
So throughout my journey in the past 30 years, my inner voice would give me certain exercises to do. And the Seven Contemplations relates to those exercises. Because if we don't sit with ourselves and contemplate, like, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? What is the point of this? Like, if we don't take that time, then we'll always be living from the outside in rather than the inside out. There's no power from the outside in. There's only power from the inside out. I am commanding existence from the inside out. Otherwise, I am being commanded. So when you do the Seven Contemplations, you begin to become the authority of your life. And the first contemplation is, it's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. What does that mean? It means this world is temporary. So you don't anchor yourself in this reality, because in any moment, anything can change. So when you understand that it's all an illusion, you don't lose yourself in the external world. You actually pull your energy back in and just watch, like, oh, this is all happening. Like, there's a presidential election and everyone's having this reaction or that reaction, but it's all made up. In one moment, it's all gone. It could be gone. So why would I invest so much of my time, energy, and power into something that is so temporary?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first contemplation. The second one is, there is no outside. So everything outside of us is actually a reflection of what's inside of us. Since there is no outside, contemplation number 3 is, all judgment is self-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
All judgment is self-judgment, because there is no outside. So anytime I'm judging someone or projecting on someone, it speaks to me, not them. Mm-hmm. Contemplation number 4 says that suffering is a perspective. Mm-hmm. This is a really important contemplation, and we're going to do a podcast on the role of suffering.
Yes. Yes, that is a very important contemplation, and I have to say, one of the harder contemplations of those 7, and my own journey. That is, it takes a lot to be able to even step into the headspace of it. Never mind practice it or live from it, that place. So I'm looking forward to that conversation where we really dive into that for sure.
Yes. So number 4 is suffering as a perspective. Number 5 is embrace the paradox. Mm. Another challenging one for the limited mind, to be like, you mean both of those things that are oppositional could be true at the same time? And it really like makes your mind go, oh, how is this possible? Until you somehow get it. And it's like, oh, I can hold all perspectives in my consciousness at the same time, and they're equally valid.
Yeah.
Very powerful, very empowering. And there's no more arguing with anyone or anything, because it's like, oh yeah, I get your perspective, I get your perspective. They're all valid. And there you go.
Boy, do we need that now more than ever, Joseph?
Yeah, we really do.
It's this,
and it aligns
righteousness.
It aligns with the compassionate heart.
Yeah.
To have the embrace the paradox, to really master embrace the paradox, goes with the compassionate heart and unconditional love. Mm-hmm. And not judging anyone for having their perspective. It's just their perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Contemplation number 7 is, I know nothing. One day I was waiting for a client to come, and years ago, and my inner voice said, you are too involved in your sessions. You need to step out of the way. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just doing what I do. It's like, that's the problem. You're doing way too much. And I'm like, yeah, but they're paying me for a result. So I have to have a result. No, you don't. That's all about you, not about them. You don't know anything about it. What do you actually know? And I'm like, what do I know? And I'm like, I guess I don't know anything. And it's like, exactly, you know nothing. And I just sat there, my mind just went, pfft. And from that moment on, I understood it's not me that is doing something with the client, it's the space, it's the emptiness.
Mm.
So when one understands, I know nothing, and masters, I know nothing, then there is the access to the all and everything.
The paradox that you just spoke of.
Because it is only in space that something can descend. If I know everything or claim to know everything, my fists are closed. I know it all. I'm the one. However, this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like humility, availability, openness, vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And in this space, the universe abhors a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
The universe is like, oh, let's drop all this information into this space. And that is how the masters in this world who walked this world, that's how they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing there. There was no resistance. There was no claim to knowledge or wisdom. There was simply presence. And in the presence, all the information descended into that presence.
Mm-hmm.
So I truly feel like all of my work, whatever benefit happens in my sessions, happens because of contemplation number 6. And I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will simply speak and information comes out of my mouth and I have no idea where it's coming from. I have no idea how I'm knowing what I'm knowing about people, about their lives, the past, the future, nothing. And I just sit there as a witness watching in awe, like, wow, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. So my personality has learned to step out of the way and do not interfere with this person's healing process, but be the witness to their journey. Be the witness
Mm-hmm.
to their becoming themselves,
Mm-hmm.
their true self. And ultimately, the last contemplation is the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
The truth will set you free. But where are you going to get this truth?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the truth coming from? And so this contemplation jumps to the next book, which is the 12 Universal Laws and Spiritual Principles. If you don't know the rules of the game, how are you going to be a master of the game? And the 12 Universal Laws and Spiritual Principles teach us what these rules are. And if you don't master these rules, you can't be a master in this world. So I won't go into those 12 laws, but both the 7 Contemplations as well as the Universal Laws are available as ebooks for free on my website. So anyone can just
Terrific.
go there.
And we'll put your website in the liner notes of this, but tell us your website and also tell us how, people who are interested in working with you, how they can reach out and even how you work with people.
My website is josephaldo.com, JOSEPHALDO.com. And I work with people one-on-one. People find me because they're going through some significant psycho-emotional issues. I tend to work with people that have done a lot of personal work on themselves already. They are aware of their soul, they're aware of unity consciousness, they're aware of the shadow, they're aware of taking responsibility for the creator of their lives. So they have done a lot of personal work and tend to be stuck somewhere in particular. I work with a lot of healers as well. And my work helps people to integrate those places that are in shadow. So I work a lot with the subconscious mind, because to me, the subconscious mind is running the show, not the conscious mind. So 95 to 99% of our lives is run by what we are not aware of. And my skill set involves going right into the subconscious mind and bridging the programs, patterns, and beliefs that are limiting and sabotaging one's success at the physical level, the emotional level, relationships, abundance, what have you. And to help people integrate it using energy medicine, such as flower essences and homeopathy. The flower essences have been truly miraculous tools to help speed up one's evolution and to be able to integrate limiting states of consciousness and help people rise, rise to their true self and to really transcend sometimes what's been bothering them for their whole lives.
Yeah,
and it's done quickly, effectively, and efficiently.
And with no side effects, except
No
the side
negative
effects of wholeness.
Exactly. Like, it's amazing.
It's amazing. The Flower Essence Remedy course, taking that with you in Brooklyn, and the journey I've had, not only for myself personally from the results of those flower essence remedies, but also what I've seen happen with my clients, it's profound. I could never have imagined that something so natural from the earth, so simple, so inexpensive, could be so profound. And yet they are.
Right, because first and foremost, we are all energy, we're all consciousness. And Dr. Bach, who created the flower essences, knew that. And when you correct the imbalance at the psycho-emotional level, it corrects the imbalance on all levels. So,
and for those that are not familiar with flower essences, I recommend you do look them up. Joseph's ability to teach the nuance of how to use them for your own healing journey, never mind for those that you work with, is really profound. It's an incredible course, robust. It's also very enjoyable, which is the participants, the interaction with one another. You get thrown right into the deep end of the pool where you get to speak what you feel could be a benefit to the people around you, and you learn together. Those courses I've done 2 of them, I think, with you at this point, and of the flower essence course, and it's just a very profound experience because you're seeing healing happening right before your eyes. I was healing right before my own eyes, and having witnesses to it was just made it even more magical and profound. Yeah. So how else would you say you work with people? The people, if they want to come to you, do they work with you for a specific amount of time? Do they sign up for a particular amount of hours or sessions? How is it ideal for people to engage with you?
well, it depends. Some people are on what I call the Autobahn of transformation. So they're here to go through almost like what I went through, which is like dredging up continuously one after another, issue after issue. In that case, I work people for 10, 15 years, once a month. They come back to me. Other people will come for one session, have a transformation in their life, and they're good to go. Like they just needed me to be a catalyst to further something in their lives, and they got it, and I never see them again. Others will come, for a year or 2 for a specific issue until that issue is resolved or integrated. And so, it really depends on what's happening with people in the moment. And, when you find someone you resonate with, like those people that come to me, when they find me, they hold on tight. Yeah. Because they know that I'm the one that could help them get through so many issues, regardless of what it is, that I have all these various skills to help bring them through their challenges and their problems. And so, each person, it's really unique on who comes long-term, who comes short-term, or some people will just feel like they hear my name every few years and they know I need an update with Joseph Aldo and I need to talk about this. And then they come 1 hour and they're like, got everything I needed. I won't see them for a few years. So it really depends. It depends. But the thing is, what's curious is that people will say, I haven't seen you in years, but you're always in my mind. So to me, it says that even one session the benefit is much, much more than one session. That somehow my consciousness or whatever it is that they're hearing remains with them as a sort of a guide and a teacher. And they'll say, like, I've heard your voice so many times when I'm about to make the wrong decision. You're like, do not even think about it. So, I don't understand how all these things operate and work in the universe, but I humbly appreciate that, guidance comes in so many different ways. And if it comes as my voice, awesome. Pay attention if it does, because it'll keep coming back, just like that voice when I was 20 years old speaking to me. It'll keep coming back until you pay attention.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
we all need a teacher on this journey. There's no way, like, I could not be who I am today if I didn't have two very significant teachers at the right and appropriate time, holding my space, one of them for 25 years, one of them for like 5 years.
Wow.
Those two teachers really allowed me to go through these serious transformations, holding space, never judging me, always loving me. And I'm pretty sure that there's no way I could be this person today helping all these people without those master teachers in this world. So we all need teachers on this journey, and all you have to do is ask, and it is given. They will come.
One of the things I as we wrap this up that I just want to speak to is I learned, I think, from Joseph Campbell about the concept of being the hollow reed, which source can come through and speak through, and to, like you spoke to before, get your own ego out of what it is you may be being called to share with someone or a client or a friend or a colleague. And to be that hollow reed means that you ultimately are going to be used by divine to speak through you. And part of why I know you're so successful at being that hollow reed is because along the way, there would be some really hard truths that you would lay upon me. And as hard as it was for me to hear, as much as my ego was in complete resistance to that truth bomb, there was a part of me that knew it wasn't even you speaking, because then I probably would have been pissed at you. I'd have been mad at you. I'd have been like, Joseph, go to hell. But yet there's something about when you are in the zone, that the voice that even comes out of you, like you said, that authoritativeness to it, it's otherworldly. It feels it doesn't feel of this world. And that is part of what I believe when my own ego was flailing against it. I was able to hear it because I knew that there was some powerful truth to it that transcended whether I was happy about that or not. And that, to me, has just always been the evidence for me with our journey together, that, wow, this truth may not be fun to hear, but it's a truth nonetheless. So thank you for being willing to be that hollow reed, because not everybody is. And I have met a lot of spiritual teachers along the journey that their ego gets in their own way. And I have just not experienced that with you. And I am very grateful to you for that, and evidence of all the work you've done on yourself. So thank you, Joseph, for that personally.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to our second podcast. We're going to be talking about suffering is a perspective. That's going to be a deep dive. It's still, for me, is a challenging truth to reconcile with. So I'm looking forward, Joseph, to having that conversation with you and pulling that apart. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Joseph, again, his website is josephaaldo.com. His offerings range from courses and conversations around consciousness, around holistic healing, and around learning how to give to yourself flower essence remedies and homeopathy remedies. So I'm looking forward to finding out how everybody experiences you if they're experiencing you for the first time. You're very lucky to have seen this podcast today and meet him.
Thanks,
And
Kim.
Kim Ann Curtin. Thank you, Joseph. Look forward to the next session.
Awesome.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.